I was just getting comfortable going to sleep. I was like, yeah.
Sorry. All right.
Well, this will be quick. Anyways.
Wait a minute. What just happened?
Alice is in the room. If you want to in.
Hold on. Somehow I got somewhere I didn't mean to be. There we go. Okay.
Oh,
Here you go. Great. Oh, there he is.
So are we all set to start? We're good?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to promote.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your patience. So welcome to the December 19th, 2022 regular meeting of the Town of Easton, Massachusetts Planning and Zoning Board. In keeping with an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards a quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To use Zoom, follow the link on the agenda, which can be found on the calendar, the front page of the town's website. While board members and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants will join the webinar as attendee, meaning they are muted with no video feed from them. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using the raised hand function or the Q&A function on Zoom. If joined by a phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Board members are asked to announce themselves when making a motion and a second, so it'll be clear to the audience members and minute takers who made the motions. All votes will be by roll call. To ensure we have a quorum, we will now have a roll call. Gregory Strange, present. Deborah Balsaric.
Present.
Peter Deshane. Present. Amos Kedem. Present. Robert Stetson. Present. All right, thank you all. And Amos, since Chris Anderson has resigned from the board, you will be sitting in as a full member for this continuous special permit. So hearing. So we have one item tonight, and that is a continued public hearing for 466 Foundry Street, special permit for multifamily, and a site plan endorsement. If someone wants to present or get us up to date where they're at, name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Farrier, JK Holmgren Engineering, 24 Pearl Street, Brockton, Mass. Here along with Joe Grimaldi from Fusion Investments for 464 Foundry Street. So we just wanted to give the board a quick update and perhaps have a quick conversation. I think when we last left you folks back in the beginning of November, we had a couple of outstanding issues. One was we had just recently submitted a new landscaping plan from the landscape architect that we felt satisfied concerns that the board had brought up previously about the clearing that had been done by the earlier owner, primarily on the back property along Greenwood Village, both the roadway and the Greenwood Village building. So this new landscaping plan, we hope, addresses that concern. The other issue that we had left with the board was the board wanted to make sure that we were settled with the Conservation Commission and had closed everything out with the commission before you folks made a decision. So we kind of left it at that, but at the very end of the meeting, we had a really quick discussion on the number of affordable units that our project proposes, and you know, the percentage and the benefits that would have towards the town's affordable housing stock. And just to go over the numbers quickly, what we have before you folks tonight is, as we've had since the summertime, since June or July when we submitted this revised layout, is a 20-unit building. And the proposal has been for 2 of those units to be affordable, so obviously a 10% affordable. And it was questioned at that last meeting. We answered it and kind of left it at that. We really didn't have any back and forth. So we just wanted to get back to the board, I guess, and make sure that everybody's comfortable with that number. Mr. Grimaldi has done a lot of legwork and research and crunched all the financial numbers and could get into a greater conversation with you folks if that was necessary. But we just wanted to make sure before we take the final step with conservation and come back to you folks that everybody is clear on what we're proposing and in fact everybody is comfortable with that.
Okay, thank you. So I'll jump in here quickly, because at the last meeting, what had happened is Peter had asked if all the units would count towards the SHI, to which we know they wouldn't if it was only 25%. And also at the last meeting, and I think it was at the last meeting or subsequent to it, maybe it was 2 meetings ago, we learned, if you recall from the beginning of this project, early on during our preliminary discussions, we had talked about, okay, what would the mitigation be? There's every other large scale or medium scale residential project in town has had some form of linkage. And we're saying maybe there could be a park out there or something, but that didn't really materialize. And then I think a lot of us thought it was a good idea. Came up with the very first meeting to have that sort of blinking light crosswalk similar as there is at Stonehill across to Shaw's. And of course, we were informed, I guess a week or 2 ago, that the DPW says that's not allowed, or they won't allow it, or whatever. I don't know. I wasn't involved in any discussions, but so just personally as a voting member, I'm like, okay, why? And as we know, this maximum for this is 4 units. Of course, you could cut the land up a little differently, but we put that sort of open-ended or more as allowed by the planning board. So just as a single voting member, originally I was like, well, if we get some of these things we talked about, great. But they've kind of all fallen by the wayside. And unfortunately, I think these presentations have dragged on a little bit. And it's almost been more like site plan review. I haven't been told as a member why this is such a great project and why we should give such a density bonus. So following up on Peter's question last week, I had a quick conversation with Stephanie, or last meeting, I should say, and I said, I'm not very happy with. I don't think there's really any linkage here or mitigation. So maybe we try to get a 25% number and then count this all towards the affordable. Then I could, again, it's just one voting member. I'm like, all right, I can sleep at night, because we know the town of Easton's not really keen. Many of the residents aren't looking to have more apartments put in here. We've had quite a few, several hundred over the last few years, and that doesn't mean that this is a bad project or a good project. It's just, as a board member, I want to be able to answer folks. And I know word got back to me, well, that could only happen if we added 4 more units or this or that. So I'm, that's where everything is from my end. Just personally, again, for me, I just being up front, I don't know why I would be voting for such a larger number than is allowed by the bylaw in its base form. There's no, so I need to be sold on that. And I'll be done now. And if any other board members have any thoughts or questions related or not to what I said, irrelevant, but just throw it out there.
Well, I think you hit on one of the issues that I wanted to talk about tonight in regards to this project, which is the linkage piece. And I guess my question, and maybe it's just a different way of asking your question, Greg, is is there something slightly larger that might get us over the hump in terms of the engineering analysis that was provided to us and justify the type of crosswalk that I think a lot of us had been talking about And that's just a question. I'm not an engineer, so can't say I 100% understood the study, but I think I understood the findings. I guess the two questions that specifically, maybe this is a question for Scott, is number one, how close is this project to triggering that analysis, to triggering a crosswalk? And number two, did the analysis that was considered by the town or put together by the town, did that include the development directly behind this proposed development? In other words, or was it just a freestanding analysis of what does this development justify? So those were my comments.
Sure, if I can answer those, I think, really quickly, Mr. Stetson and board members. I think the feedback we received from DPW was basically the guidelines for any site at all in the town and in fact in the Commonwealth that would allow a crosswalk, just a crosswalk, to be placed on a public way. And to be honest with you, this site isn't even close to hitting any of those criteria. Even if the original first project, the mixed use project with the retail, the residential, even that wouldn't have hit any of the threshold. There's a whole bunch of threshold, in regards to traffic volume, speed, all kinds of different issues, and this just doesn't even come close. So it's, I think as far as the DPW is concerned, it wasn't even worth bringing up. Certainly in this project by itself, at this point, it's 20 units. I think again, to be honest, I think the feeling is the 20 units wouldn't necessarily justify it. The one thing that we were proposing was to build the sidewalks from our site all the way down to connect to Five Corners. Right now, from Five Corners, heading down Foundry Street in an easterly direction towards us, the concrete sidewalk ends before the bank. So we would be looking at extending the sidewalk across the bank's frontage, across our site. So we would at least be providing, a viable sidewalk to get you to Five Corners, to get you to the pedestrian light in the crosswalks.
Was that sidewalk proposed on previous plans, or is that a new?
I have a question.
Hold on, Peter asked the question first, hold on.
Yeah, that has been on the plans, Mr. DeShanes.
Okay, so if I look at the last plan that was prepared from a couple of weeks ago, at least it will be on there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Amos, go ahead.
Yeah, on the report from the DPW, it says that one of the thresholds for allowing a crosswalk is it shouldn't be another crosswalk at the distance of less than, I think, 300 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Is the crosswalk at the corner 300 feet or more? Or what is the distance, Because if they put that as a no because of that reason only, because there is a crosswalk in proximity.
Agreed. It is more than 300 feet, but that's one of the reasons, not the sole reason. It's just one of the criteria that would have to be met, or that would exclude us in this case. But it's just one of the many criteria. But we are greater than 300 feet, to answer your question.
Okay. That's not what they put on the report.
Mm-hmm.
They put a table, and the 300 feet
Right.
of the crosswalk was on that table, and that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little surprised because my feeling was that it's more than 300 feet.
Any other board members, questions or comments?
I think at the beginning when we did the site visit, I kind of questioned the high density of this apartment building, and I was appeased to certain point because we talk about some of the units being counted as affordable. So I should echo what Greg said, it doesn't leave a good feeling when so many apartments, and they're relatively small, they don't meet that requirement. That is something that the town really needs.
Any other board members?
I'd just like to say that I feel like we've been talking about and reviewing this project for a while now, and that's a good thing because it's had an opportunity for people to weigh, the community to weigh in, and for us to, go through some design changes and so forth. But I do feel like a lot of these things that we're talking about, I guess maybe it sounds like, Greg, like we were a little hopeful that maybe some of the items, some of the concessions were going to come through, but I do feel like it seems like we're, not that we can't change our mind, but a little late in the game now to be, like these issues have been present all along, I think, in terms of
What
it being a
issues?
residential project, not a mixed use project, it being a lower density because we didn't necessarily want a high density big apartment building. So I don't know. I'm just kind of talking out loud.
Well, I guess
I feel a little bit surprised.
Just to respond to yours, I mean, I guess I look at this a little differently. First of all, regardless of the density, I just look at what's allowed by the bylaw. Okay, so this is 4 times what's allowed by the base form of the bylaw. So, in going into this, we talked about, and this going back to preliminary, before this even came to you guys, one of the first meetings with several town employees, we were talking about walkable neighborhoods. We always talk about that. Oh, we're gonna have this crosswalk going to Shaw's. So now that got pulled out at the last minute. So that's just a little discouraging. That's fine. If Mr. Ferrier just talked about, it wasn't even close. Well, it would have been nice to have one of the many engineers involved in this project, I don't necessarily mean you, Scott, said, hey, this isn't gonna happen. Because we've been talking about this for darn close to a year. And so, I thought that was gonna happen, and I thought maybe we'll get a little bit of a park going. We got a detailed landscaping plan, that's fine. I mean, eventually I'm done, I can lead a horse to water, but, so I'm like, all right, well, why are we going to give such a density bonus? And I thought, well, maybe we can get and Stephanie and I talked about this and said, hey, just 3 more units, maybe we can get them to go, for what they're gonna save, not doing the, I've yet to see any mitigation proposed, frankly, other than the sidewalk. And compared to comparable projects in town on a by unit basis, it's not even close monetarily. And so I thought, well, maybe we can take a little stab and see if we can make 25% work. And I guess I know I got some correspondence back that it doesn't work, and I understand this has to be a business. It is a business. It has to be have those choices to make it profitable. But I just look back, and from given our service to Easton, I'm kind of so that I don't look at me as bringing this up at the last minute. I look at much of this was removed at the last minute. I'm like, why? So tell me why we should allow all these additional units. I'm not saying that to you, Deb. I'm saying that, no, this hasn't, if you read our bylaw, we should go back before the next meeting. It's broken out of the process you should go through, the preliminary design and what we're looking for. That's really never been addressed. And I've brought this up a few times. This has kind of just been handled as site plan review, where we walk through, we revised this curb detail, we put some plants here. Instead of saying to us, and more importantly to the town of Easton, why this is an important project. I'm not saying it's not an important project, but what, why should we, be doing this so far beyond the 4 units allowed? So that's, and now it's time. We've been talking about this a long time, still waiting to get it wrapped up with Concom. So Peter brought up the affordable. So I look at it as, okay, we have a correspondence from the applicant saying that he'd need 4 more units, total of 24, to do it 25, to make it 20, to have all the units count, to have the 25% affordable, have 5 units. And So I'm like, okay, well, this came up at the last meeting, so is that something that interests the board or not? Or do we just want to keep it the way it is? Or I'm looking for thoughts on this so we can find out, should we close this thing, take a vote in the next meeting? Should we, although I don't really want to close this till Concom's wrapped up, but what do you guys want to do with this? So,
Yeah, I mean, so the first meeting,
this has been a long process. I'd like to wrap it up too, but I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah. At the first meeting, I asked, when we realized there was gonna be no commercial component, I asked how this project, fulfills the stated goals in the, first two paragraphs of the new bylaw, or the bylaw that, applies to this district. And, we haven't really heard that. No one ever replied. And, we mentioned this and that, the other thing, and we just keep circling back, and we have the maximum number of units with nothing to really show for why that is a good fit for this area. And, it's not a direct precedent, but it's the first, one of the larger projects to come to us here in this new section. And we haven't really heard anything to say why this is, why this is the way to go. So let's see what you have to say and how you might want to work on
Sure, if
that.
I could just respond to a couple of those things. First thing, as far as the density, I'm not in, maybe I'm missing something, but I keep hearing that 4 units is the maximum allowed. I think the bylaw says, it says right here, chapter 23560, the number of units is 1 per 5,000 of lot space, up to a maximum of 10 per lot. So, and again, we've discussed this way back in the beginning. We've got 2 parcels of land. So we talked about it and said, well, instead of having 10 units on one parcel, 10 units on the other, if we combine the 2 parcels, 81,000 square feet divided by 5,000 square feet gives you 16.4 units.
What does it say about commercial? What does it say about commercial?
Well, actually, we didn't have that talk. You guys came in with a mixed-use project that really didn't work. There was not nearly enough parking. It was jamming everything on. That was the thought. And we sat at a table with the town planner and with your attorney, and we said, maybe we should look at, I think I said, well, maybe just go all apartments on this. We could look at this district-wide. Not every parcel is made to be mixed use. This is a small parcel. But now when you start to remove wetlands in the resource areas, now your numbers go down. So there was never, it was like you could present this in a way, but this, but there was also talk, we seem to conveniently forget that from the get-go, I've talked about how the precedent has been set for linkage payments in this town up at the boundary, up at both phases of Avalon. That was always in play, but we never really got there. And to Peter's point, there really hasn't been a narrative that talks about this project. You guys have just come in and presented engineering, and that's fine. But we've, this isn't at the last minute. We're not, but Deb, things have changed here at the end. But basically, everything has been pulled away that we had talked about, and we're led to believe maybe we'll be part of this project. So I'm just one person. I know I talk a lot, but I'm like, okay, well, as one person on this board, why am I going to vote for this project?
I think just
how are you going to sell me?
And again, way back in the summer when we had our site visit, before we made the decision to officially scrap the mixed use and go with this, we talked about with a couple of the board members that specifically brought that question up. The bylaw specifically says mixed use. How can we allow this project not to be a mixed use? And we specifically spoke about it at that meeting and at the public hearings. This site is a little bit different, where it's right on the outskirts of that zoning district. For one thing, it's not right in the middle, it's right in the outskirts. And the fact that it was directly across the street from a giant retail plaza that already has plenty of retail space, the fact that our space didn't have retail, might not be a deal breaker. Again, we're on the outskirts and we're right across the street from a giant plaza. So we did have discussions, like I said, at the site with everybody and at meetings. We've discussed that as the reason, in at least the justification in our mind, why we could propose this as a residential project only, not a mixed use. So we haven't skirted that issue. We've talked about it with you folks on a few occasions.
Well, that's the issue I was referring to is mitigation. So I agree with all the other points. I'm the one who brought them to the table. I've been talking about it for months.
Okay.
But tell us why this project's so good and should be done beyond, and look, we can sit here, I'm not gonna break out the engineering numbers. It's,
Oh, I understand,
they're
but
asking for substantially more units than is allowed, you know. We put that god awful open-ended line at the end, which I wish we hadn't, frankly, for situations like this.
But I think we're allowed 16.3 and we've got
Well,
20.
whatever, Scott. So then tell me why you want
It's
four.
not a significant
Okay, I'm gonna disagree with you, but you know what? You still haven't told me why you should get 2 units, you know?
Okay, all right.
You haven't
Well,
sold
that-
anything. You've come in here, this isn't site plan review. This is a special permit application, and
And
you're
I
supposed to
can't-
sell it to us. And I've been asking for months, both on TV and off.
Okay,
You
I
want
don't act like I'm asking for something at the last minute or I'm changing. I haven't. I'm tired of talking about this project too. I want
I
to
don't-
vote it up or down and move it on. But
I
we have a
don't think that-
responsibility.
Okay.
We have a responsibility to the town of Easton.
I'm
and the
not
residents
saying that at all.
to meet our bylaws and to meet the goals and objectives of the town through the master planning process. So I wish you guys would strap them on and do it.
I'm trying to. I'm answering specifically the questions that the members are asking. So when the members specifically ask about the density, I'm trying to answer that specific question. When it's asked why this is justified not to be mixed use, I'm answering that specifically. I'm looking right here at the staff report that's dated in August and updated in October, and it specifically mentions how we meet all of the requirements of your special permit, all the conditions and all the issues that we should be addressing in our special permit. They're all right here in writing that the staff has put forward. So all of those answers, and you might not agree with the answers, but all of those answers are here and have been here since August.
Right, but we don't have to give the density bonus. We
Understood?
don't have to give a special permit.
Understood.
And, you know, everything we've talked about has pretty much not materialized for one reason or the other. Yet everything else has changed except for the number of units. Do you agree with that? Do you see, can you understand that point of view?
I
That
understand.
everything else has gone away except for the same number of units.
I understand the crosswalk is moving away.
Can I jump in for a second?
Name and address for the record, please.
Joseph Grimaldi, Fusion Investments, 7 Blue Heron Lane, Easton, Mass. I've sat through this meeting tonight, and I've been working on this project for almost 2 years now. Me and my team have literally done every single thing that's been asked for us, okay? We've had at least 10 probably informal meetings up in Easton. We had a plan for mixed use, okay, that I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on, okay? Trying to do what's good for the town. If you guys look at that lot the way it is now, it doesn't look good. It looks horrible. I'm an Easton resident. I live right down the street. Okay, I'm trying to do something better for the town, and I've been doing everything that's been asked of me. Okay, I've spent thousands of dollars. We had a mixed use. Okay, we agreed to the crosswalk. The crosswalk is not our fault. As far as mitigation, we would have done that. We didn't take that away. And as far as this so-called park, from day one, with whatever has been suggested, we have done, and we will continue to do that. Whatever type of park that the board sees fit, we can do. I mean, it's not a huge area for a park, and I don't know, like, what type of park anybody wants. I keep hearing a park, and I keep hearing things are getting taken away. All we've done is done what everyone, whoever we've met with, we've done what they've wanted, okay? I think this is going to benefit the town immensely. So as far as affordable housing units, all I asked for, okay, I wasn't even at the last meeting. I heard there was, someone had mentioned, obviously it was Peter, about additional affordable units. This came up at the last meeting 2 weeks ago. No one's ever mentioned this before to anyone. Okay, we thought we were done with the 20 units and the two affordable. Okay, so we've had discussions the last 3 weeks. I went to my bank. I said, can we do this with all the rents, what it's going to cost to build? And it's just, with the additional, having 20 units and 5 additional affordable to make it 25% for the town, it just wouldn't work. So I put it out there. If we could do 4 more additional units, have a 24, which is only going to add 25 feet to the building. People are gonna drive by, they're not even gonna notice the difference. And that would put it into the 25%, there would be 6 units that would be affordable. It would help the town, then the whole project would count. But it's just frustrating to me that I hear that something different every time I come. I haven't said one thing on any of these things. And anyone can say anything they want, but I've done everything that's been asked of me, and I will continue to do that just to make this work for me financially and for the town. I want to make it work. So I just need direction one way or the other. That we thought we were done with the 20 units and the 2 affordable. This came up 2 weeks ago. As far as the crosswalk, we would do that. We would, whatever mitigation that anyone suggests, I'm open to it. So I'm hearing these things keep getting pulled and pulled. We're not pulling anything. I haven't pulled anything. If anything, I've added, and I've wasted tons and tons of time and money. And I know you guys as the board is probably tired of this project. I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of spending all my time and energy and money to try to make that area look better. It's only going to help the area. We're not talking about 60 units. We're talking about 20. And I'm fine leaving it at 20. But I get different explanations and different things every time we go to a meeting, whether it's formal, informal. I get different requests. First it was mixed use. It's all we wanted was mixed use. And then it switched to residential. So that's what we did. And now it seems like we're getting blamed for changing things when we haven't. We're just doing what everyone's asked us to do, or anyone that we've met with. So I just want to put my 2 cents in there and say that I just want to help the town. I want to make it look better. And of course, it's got to be financially viable, because I don't want to get something approved that's not going to get financed. It won't make sense. So it's just going to sit there. And it doesn't look good for the town. It doesn't look good down there when you drive by there. It's not a great area. We know there's another project in town that the same thing's happening to. I'm trying to work with everybody, and I know my team has, to try to get this resolved. But it seems like we get blamed for everything. Like, I've done everything I'm supposed to do.
Well, first of all, Mr. Groneman, I didn't hear anybody blame anybody for anything. And this isn't easy. Just, I understand that you look at it as you're going to put up a new building regardless of the density, so it's the best thing in Easton. I mean, that was a nicely wooded lot. I know before you bought it, they came in, they looked like they hit it with fireball.
Yeah, it was really
look at the bylaws that were written, and you guys haven't done everything we said. I begged you guys to go to a 3-story building so that we could have a smaller footprint, so that we could get a park out there, because I was trying to tie it into the MBTA zoning. But you didn't want to spend the money on the elevator. But that's fine. So you wanted to keep 2 stories. So the building's spread out. So when you look at the site, once you remove the parking, once you remove the building, once you remove the buffer zone and the resource area that can't be touched, there's a very small area. It's got a path through it. It's got a fire pit. And you put some trees up back after I asked about it a dozen times. It's fine. It wasn't a park. That's the cost of doing business. If you want to develop 20 units, you have to dress it up a little bit and get a little privacy between the people.
To do that.
We didn't tell you to go for mixed use. We told you what the bylaws were. We told you what was possible. You guys came in with mixed use. We were for it. But like any businessman, you're trying to tap it out. So that had 28 units plus the mixed use. It was too much for that site. Everybody that looked at it agreed. Even some of your team off the record agreed. So we said, okay, maybe we should go all residential. And that was done at sort of an executive level with the chair of this board and the director of planning, because sometimes you have to try to push things in a way before it gets to a board. And then when it came to the board, they were surprised they hadn't seen it. We talked about it. So there's no blaming here tonight. This isn't easy. We're trying to work on this. We try to tweak the building a little bit, because we want to keep Easton special. We don't have a lot of business zone land.
I agree.
Thus, our property values need to stay high, because we're always going to be a residential tax base.
I agree.
And so, you've worked with us. we haven't done everything we've asked, not even close. But we really haven't asked that much. But, you know, because to me, if you want to meet the bylaw the best and you want to make this board excited and vote this out really quick, I would have gone 3 stories for all the reasons that I already said. But with that ship has sailed, you know. And no one's saying you have to go to 25% affordable. But I'm trying to help get this project approved for you. But I saw things that we were told we're going to get as part of mitigation, and there's been no discussion. There's been no talk of money. There's been no, that we all thought that crosswalk was in there from the get-go. And I understand. I didn't say you guys got rid of that. That came up that's really discouraging to me because that came up. That's been there from the get-go. So why that wasn't talked about at a staff level, and all due respect, Stephen, I'm not blaming anything on you, but I just, unfortunately, the only time we get to talk about this stuff is on TV, so we have to say it. So it kind of pisses me off that 9 months up the road we find out about that, because that doesn't do any of us any good. Because as we all sit here, this isn't easy stuff. We have huge pressure. We get calls from residents all day long. They don't want any apartments. They don't want apartments. That's nothing against you. It's nothing against the property. It just what have we added in town? Something like 1,500 units in 10 years. You know, people say, what about diversified housing? You keep saying we're going to do small houses. Where are they? So so there's lots of things that people that aren't on these boards don't know the pressures that come on us. So we're trying to get the best projects we can.
I get it. I get it. And I've been trying.
So that's what it is. And
I think I've been trying myself to do the same thing. As far as mitigation, I'm open to anything. I don't know,
17,500 per unit. That's what everybody else is paid in town, to the best of my knowledge. That always brings the silence to the room. So, here's what I think we should do. We're not gonna get this here, and we all want to get on with Christmas. I think you should wrap up with Concom, because you know what? If for some reason, if you add 25 feet to a building, I mean, I'm kind of tired of being held hostage constantly by Concom, and that's not you guys, but we're the head of the planning pyramid. It's the planning department, and those, that stuff should be set first and then come to us, because otherwise, there's substantial changes and we have to go through it again. And how can we decide on amenities like parks and landscaping features when we don't know what can be touched and what can't be touched? We brought this up 3 or 4 months ago.
Right, can I just speak
let me stop,
on
let me
the-
finish, please, Stephanie. And so I think from here, I think you guys should go back, you should wrap up with Concom, and you should come in next time and sell your project. And then we'll close the public hearing and we'll vote it up or down. Everybody can move on with their lives. Stephanie, go ahead.
I just wanted to say the holdup in conservation isn't the layout of the design. It's a few items on stormwater that are really more they're a little more than record keeping, but it's not anything that is going to change the design. And I think that the reason that the applicant asked the Conservation Commission to continue tonight's hearing, which I was told by the agent the board was ready to close on, is because they wanted, if there were any changes coming from the board, this board, they didn't want to close out the Conservation Commission and then have to go back with changes.
Sure. What I'm trying to avoid, though, in all honesty, is we had a project recently that this board approved, and after it left us, and we waited till Concom voted on it, but then when the decision was written, substantial cost items came up that were never expressed to this board, and that substantially diminished the mitigation package that we had all agreed to. So that's a process that I don't think is fair to this board or any of the boards involved. I don't think it's fair to the residents of Easton, and I'm loath to have that happen on my watch again. So that's why I want Concom wrapped up, as I've told you in private many times recently. I want that wrapped up before we vote on things from now on, because there's just been too many substantial changes after the fact.
and we were going to do that, Greg. It was just that we wanted to have one final meeting because the whole discussion came up about the additional affordable units, or else we'd close Concom. So I guess at this point, that's what we have to do next.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wouldn't be, if for any reason you change the footprint of this building, it certainly wouldn't be the first project. In fact, that's going to happen during contract document phase anyway. It always does, And I think, and I might be wrong, but just as chair, I'll say this, and you guys can let me know, and I'm addressing my fellow board members now. I think we should continue right now. I think the board members should give this some thought over the next couple of weeks till our next meeting. I think the applicant should give this some thought and come in with your best projects for us. But that might be the project you have right in front of us. That's fine. That's fine. And then we can discuss it. We can close. If Concom's wrapped up, and then we can vote on it, and everybody can move on with their lives. What do the board members think about that process?
Fine by me. I'll present a motion to continue. Stetson.
Kevin, second.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor: Greg Strange, aye. Bob Stetson,
Aye.
Deb Balsaric,
Aye.
Peter Duchesne,
All right.
Thomas Kedem.
Aye.
All right. We'll see you guys at our next meeting. Or if you're ready.
Could we go for the second meeting in January if we've got to go to conservation?
Sure. Yep. Whenever. Yeah, you can work that out with Stephanie. That's fine.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Happy holidays.
Happy
Thank you.
holiday.
Thank you.
All right. Meeting minutes. Peter, what do you got?
No, they look all right. I read them on when Stephanie emailed them on Thursday, so I can make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second, Stetson.
Prepared.
Peter always edits much less as we get closer to the holidays.
Yeah.
I've noticed. All those in favor? Strange eye. Robert Stetson.
Aye.
Deb Balsaric.
Aye.
Thomas Kedem.
Aye.
Who did I forget? Peter? Peter Duchesne?
Aye.
All right. Chair's report. I have nothing to report, but I'll throw this out just for thought for next year. Kind of what we were just talking about. When we did the Furnace Village zoning and we threw those things in, or more units is allowed by the planning board, I wonder if that was actually a good idea. Because it doesn't seem like this board really, and it was members of this board that I recall bringing it up. Certainly wasn't me that wanted that, but it doesn't seem like we're all super happy or comfortable with that. So maybe we should change that up. Just a thought.
Definitely wasn't me. Definitely wasn't. I hope you know.
Stephanie, do you have anything? Planning director report?
No, I would kind of echo that. I think that if the board wanted to keep that in there, maybe provide a little more guidance on what type of project would qualify for that level of a special permit, because I think I understand what the board is asking of the applicant. I'm not sure that giving them 2 more weeks on this passive funding.
This is what I think happens, is that we say, okay, it's a special permit. So, we don't have to approve anything. It's kind of all up to us.
Yeah.
And they always come with close or at the maximum, right? So we just know what's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, it's almost like, I don't know if the pro forma is based on the maximum, and that's the issue here, and we're just not given the right kind of guidance at the beginning, or if that's just the nature of the way things work.
No, there were no discussions
my
of pro formas or finances at the beginning of this. That's not our job, but I think this is our concern when we were doing the zoning, that open-ended clauses like that sometimes can be difficult, because I don't know about you guys, but me as a zoning board member, I like it when there's something that I can sort of root my decision in, or base my decision.
No, you're right. So where we tied the say the additional density, say to the smaller zone with the maybe historical component, that actually applied some guidance to it, right? Where this was just a little more open-ended.
Right.
And so whether it's pro forma or not, whatever they're thinking, they see, oh, that's what we can get, and that's just where they start. That's where they start their baseline, or whatever you want to say, however you want to call it. So I think that's the difference. Okay.
And I would agree, Peter, that has worked it seems very well for the historical, and it's very clear what they need to do to get that bonus. And there's no clarity. This is really very open-ended. On the one hand, that could be to your advantage, but this demonstrated that it makes it very difficult, at least for the applicant, to come in with something, it seems, that the board would be interested in approving.
Well, but I think the one, there was obviously a highly negotiated provision. And I think it recognized the kind of the other side of things as well, which we're hearing out of this applicant, and we've heard out of others, which is the financial realities of trying to build, you know, buildings like this or do projects like this, and the additional incentive, I mean, and to be able to finance it, particularly with conventional lending like this applicant so clearly has. You know, you've got to hit certain debt service coverage and, you know, everything else, that all the other things that I'm sure everybody out here is probably more familiar with than even I am. But I think that the addition, I mean, I would have preferred, I think everybody knows this, to have something more clear and straightforward. I just think that, you know, my preference would have been for something a little bit higher in on the density side. And I know that I may have been out in left field on that one. But I think you see the financial realities of it in this very project. And you know, so I think that having the language as it is right now, while it's a bit unsettling because it's not particularly clear on what we're supposed to do on projects like this, I also think that it kind of makes sense given the divergence of opinions that we have as a board and the financial reality. I mean, look, things have gotten a lot worse in the development. Look at where interest rates have gone. I don't think it's, you know, I don't think it's unreasonable for developers to be asking for additional density in order to be able to finance these projects.
That's a good point.
My two cents.
Anything else? We good?
I mean, I just to piggyback on that a little bit, I think one of the questions that I think I ask myself a lot is, you know, our projects that are coming before us, would I prefer that project, or would I prefer there to be nothing, or for something to remain as is for an indefinite period of time in the hope that something better will be there, or that it'll just exist exactly the way it is in that current state. And I think that because it is so expensive to develop or renovate projects, the reality is that a lot of times no one does anything. And so, you know, I don't know. I think that speaks a little bit to what you were saying, Bob, but yeah, I think it's something for us to all think about. And no answers.
If it was easy, we wouldn't be making the big bucks.
On
But it's
on the other
difficult because
hand,
honestly, I mean, when I brought up, you know, it's funny, we're talking pro formers and this and that. You know, we get be careful here. We get a wide range of of folks developing in Easton. We get a lot of people, and I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm not talking about. We get a lot of people that aren't developers, right? You know, in the past, they come from different vocations. Our bylaws, the way it was written for this, and construction costs for all the Bob brought up really valid points. Scream for this to be a 3-story building with a reduced footprint. Okay, you know, yeah, you have to put an elevator in, but you're reducing your hardscape, you're reducing your foundation costs, you're creating a more efficient cubic footage building, and you're doing, now we're tying it into Easton. I don't care how many units somebody has. If it fits, if it's a good project, great. I never look at it as number of units. I look at how it works. And I want, if, you know, to maintain Easton's rural character. And I'm always, you know, I'm pretty open about it. I think we've gone really far with apartments, and we need to be careful. We need to start looking at some smaller single family housing or connecting housing as well. And apartments. But if we're going to do them as apartments, well, let's make sure we can include families, because I get nervous that people come, they live in the town for 3 or 4 years in an apartment and then they move on. You know, I don't buy it. So many developers say, no, they come to the town and they fall in love and then they build a house. Now, when your rent's $3,500 and your mortgage is $1.8 million, I don't think that plays out too well. And that's what a 3,200 square foot house now goes for in Easton, is $1.65 million and up. So the reality, the cost of things that's the reality of it. So I wish there was more family style units in the apartments. I wish there was, you know, of any project. I'm not speaking specifically, but you know, and I wish there was more green space, because the Easton's rural character. That's what we're always talking about. Otherwise, we're just going to end up like every other state highway that's going to have 1 million drive-through donut restaurants and a bunch of apartments, and it's, you know, and they're all gonna be from the same style, and it's not gonna be special, and it's gonna knock down our property value, and we need to keep our property value high, because we are the only one of all of our abutting towns, we're the only one that doesn't have a highway. And that hurts us big time for all the reasons we've talked about. Anyways, so it's tough. I wish our bylaw was being taken advantage of. Unfortunately, it isn't. But
Can I just throw out couple of, you made a lot of really good points. One thing that I'd love to have known about this project is how many additional units would have been required in order to make it financially feasible to add that elevator, because I think that's a terrific point. And the other piece, and this is going to be very unpopular, I feel like, but I think one of the alternatives that we ought to just consider, don't even think about it hard, but just consider allowing more, duplexes and residential homes like that.
no,
Because,
absolutely. Yeah,
I think we ought to make that easier.
Yeah.
Than even we have, and I know we've been pretty good about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, look at, I went to a couple seminars in New York looking at how can we do dual accessory structures, basically a second house on a lot. It's tricky because we have so many different types of, but that's what we have to do. There's no land left. Costs aren't going down, and how are people going to afford 800,000? Never mind 1.6. I mean, it's it's crazy. So I agree with you. I mean, honestly, I look at some of these projects that come before us, and everybody thinks automatically, because I get it. It's the bottom line. Go multifamily. Let's go stack them. Sometimes some really nice, a compact neighborhood. And I, look at the mitigation that we got for 44 units. And now I look at the mitigation, which is 0 so far for half that, 20 units.
20, yeah. No, it's a good point.
Anyways, all right, that's good. We'll cut it off there. So just give all these things some thoughts. Those of you that celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a great one. And Stephanie, thanks for getting the computer fixed, whatever that was. And Happy New Year all. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks on the 9th. The 9th.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Stetson.
All right, all those in favor? Strange eye. Stetson?
Aye, and happy holidays.
The Shade?
Aye.
Balls, Eric?
Aye.
Kadam?
Aye. Happy holiday.
You look so much like a pilot. That's all I can think of.
Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody.
All right. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you all celebrate. Have a great one, and we'll see you in a few.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye, guys.